Everybody, get out of here!
Meteorologists are at a loss to explain what is causing this weather and why it has taken them by surprise.
That sudden drop in temperature has half an hour ago. Mexican officials closed the border in the light of so many U.S. refugees.
We prepare to go live to Los Angeles.
Are you getting into the cameras?
What you see is happening now.
Look over there behind me! That's a tornado! Yes, a twister!
This is just massive.
And in China's Guangdong province, a big section of a road swallowed by a massive sinkhole, all of it caught on video. It happened at a construction site for a new subway. The ground gave way in exactly the same place.
They say the number of earthquakes began increasing rapidly at around 7 a.m. on Saturday. The officials say they have observed massive tectonic changes on the mountain.
Now, that video shows an officer punching the suspect's face in an attempt to get him to cough up a plastic bag that's in its mouth. Officers realized they were being recorded and later surrounded Levi.
Godzilla is apparently the only word to describe what climatologist William Patzert sees in images that show unusually warm water spreading across the Pacific near the equator.
Still see the skid marks here where that truck struck that barricade and then flipped over in the parking lot. Veteran Waukesha officers calling this one of the wildest incidents they've ever seen, with the naked driver pinned down and arrested right over there. Waukesha squads captured the video when the driver seemingly intentionally rammed two parked squads driving through a fence to get to them just before 8 Tuesday night.
I have no doubt that it was intentional. He hits this other squad, and he's just off of the squad cam video, but according to officers, that's when he flips them off.
The driver speeds away, eventually hitting 90 miles an hour. The chase covers about a mile and a half, and as other squads join in, he doubles back and sideswipes the same squad again.
He just ran me.
The truck pulls away from the pursuing squad, but in the distance you can see it strike something and roll. By the time the officer pulls up, the man is walking away, nude.
He's out on foot, and he's naked.
The Waukesha man is quickly arrested after a brief struggle with police. They suspect he was on the drug LSD. Police say there was never a question about whether to chase him after he rammed the squads.
No doubt for the officers this was a serious threat, so the pursuit ensued right at that moment.
Well, there are still broken parts of the pickup truck scattered across the parking lot here. The driver, the only one injured, head and facial injuries, but he's expected to survive to face charges still being tallied by police. In Waukesha, Nick Bohr, WISN 12 News.
Well, this burned area we measured this morning, it's about 8 feet long and 6 feet wide. And the thought is that whatever impacted here probably impacted here, because you can see how it kind of spread from there. And we heard the explosion and saw the flash from inside the house. And when I looked out, I saw that this was on fire.
And in China's Guangdong province, a big section of a road swallowed by a massive sinkhole, all of it caught on video. It happened at a construction site for a new subway. The ground gave way in exactly the same place the day before. The incident in Dongguan City shook the entire neighborhood and left two buildings perched next to nothing. A worker was killed underground.
Highway 33 fire. Cross Highway 3 and 33.
Earthquakes are increasing in frequency on Mount Sakurajima in western Japan's Kagoshima prefecture. Officials with the meteorological agency are telling people to be ready to evacuate. They say the number of earthquakes began increasing rapidly at around 7 a.m. on Saturday. The officials say they have observed massive tectonic changes on the mountain. They've raised the eruption alert level by 1 notch to 4. The agency has advised people in 2 towns close to the volcanoes Showa and Minamidake craters to prepare for evacuation. Municipal authorities are setting up 16 shelters at elementary and junior high schools as well as other locations.
This morning, forecasters warn that storms of Godzilla proportions could hit the West Coast. A NASA climatologist describes the system as a Godzilla El Nino. It could bring once-in-a-generation storms to the West this winter. John Blackstone shows us how this could impact California, especially the 4-year drought.
A strong El Nino could turn drought-stricken California from this to this. In San Francisco, the winter of 1997-98 was the wettest in 120 years. A full year's worth of rain fell in Los Angeles in just 1 month. Mountain towns were buried under twice the average snowfall. What's coming this winter could be even stronger.
El Nino comes in all sizes, small, medium, and large. But very rarely do we get a Godzilla El Nino.
Godzilla is apparently the only word to describe what climatologist William Patzert sees in images that show unusually warm water spreading across the Pacific near the equator. That warm water mass, the signature of El Nino, seems to be growing even broader than it did in 1997.
This one looked promising from the start. At birth, it was a big baby.
In the United States, a strong El Nino can bring more precipitation across the south and up the east coast. Northern states are likely to have a winter that is drier and warmer than usual.
This would be a very strong El Nino.
In California, meteorologist John Monteverde has been watching with growing excitement.
We always get interested in forecasting storms, and there's going to be lots of storms to forecast if this pattern bears out.
Can Californians start going into the back of their closet to find their umbrellas and raincoats?
Ha-ha, yes.
But forecasters warn that 4 years of drought have left California so dry, even this powerful El Nino may not be enough to bring the state back to normal.
Start of the day, the story here at the PGA Championship was the hot, humid weather. But then Mother Nature upped the ante in the afternoon. So were you out there in the storm?
Yes, we were. It was tornado-like weather. It just came all of a sudden, and the wind just picked up. It was horrible.
The weather's so bad, the media tent was shaking. So where were you during the storm?
We were in the tents on 17.
And was the tent shaking?
It was intense, literally. It was the rocking all over the place. The door was opening, closing, and huge winds. It's all about the weather in Wisconsin. It was just gorgeous during the day. It was too hot. Everyone was falling. Everyone was drinking water. And then we got this.
It's going to be okay. You know, it's kind of scary.
And this is just one example of the storm damage. The public scoreboard down, and they will be working through the night to get the course back in shape. From the PGA Championship, Stephanie Sutton, WISN 12 News.
In Florida, there is a resurgence in HIV cases, especially among adolescents and young adults. After 3 decades of medical advances against the potentially deadly virus, why is it on the rise again? Vicente Arenas is looking into this.
26-year-old John Cabeza of Miami discovered he was HIV positive 2 years ago. He remembers stopping at a mobile testing lab and having his world turned upside down.
I thought, this is the end for me. I used to cry in the bathroom and wake up with my eyes swollen because I was crying all night.
Cabeza's diagnosis is part of an alarming trend. 5,377 Floridians were diagnosed with HIV in 2013, according to the Florida Department of Health. That's more than any other state in the nation. Dr. Michael Wolfheiler is the chief of medicine for the AIDS Healthcare Foundation. He says 13 to 24-year-old males make up the fastest growing group of new infections.
They were not alive when we went through what I call the Holocaust era of AIDS, where everybody was dying from this disease. A young person comes in for his or her first visit with me. The attitude at the beginning of the visit is very nonchalant, like this is not a big deal. By the end of the visit, often the attitude has changed.
Increasing infection rates are also being seen in those age 50 and older.
Part of the reason that we're seeing new infections in an older group of men who have sex with men is what I would actually term kind of a gay midlife crisis, where they were HIV negative for years and years, getting tested regularly, and then they went through a period as they were facing middle age and of becoming more sexually active.
Health officials also say up to 60% of teens and young adults infected don't know they're HIV positive and are unknowingly spreading the disease. The AIDS Foundation is now trying to create a more aggressive media campaign to remind people that the benefits of safe sex far outweigh the risks of the disease. Vicente Arenas, CBS News, Miami.
As fires continue to burn in Tianjin, the rescue effort goes on. This man was found after search teams heard his cries for help. The scale of the aftermath of Wednesday's explosions can be seen from the sky. More than 100 people are known to have died. Now there's a new danger from toxic sodium cyanide stored at the site. People living within 3 kilometers have been ordered to leave their homes. The disruptions affecting an area far larger than that.
I just bought some things, and when I got to roughly number 9 Street, I had to get out the car because they'd blocked the road. I asked them what's going on. They said it's still dangerous inside. You can't enter.
Among the dead are 21 firefighters. There's anger here, and questions are being asked about their role. Sodium cyanide becomes flammable when in contact with water. Chemical weapons experts have moved in. China's President Xi Jinping is demanding that lessons are learned. Before any investigation takes place, though, emergency workers continue their hunt for survivors. The smoke above Tianjin a constant reminder of those who perished and of those who are still missing. Richard Martin, Al Jazeera.
Filed against Denver police, but it's not by a victim of alleged brutality. It's by a person who captured it on camera. 7 News reporter Lance Hernandez talking to a witness, and Lance, he says he felt intimidated.
Eric, Levi Frazier told me that he was driving by this parking lot 1 year ago today when he saw a couple of police officers pulling a young man out of a car. So he stopped, got out his tablet, and started recording. Now, that video shows an officer punching the suspect's face in an attempt to get him to cough up a plastic bag that's in its mouth. Officers realized they were being recorded and later surrounded Levi.
So I went and I grabbed it and I
came out with it, and we were walking back, and he said, "All right, can we have it?" And I said, "No, you don't have a warrant." And that was when it was taken out of my hands.
Frazier says that when he got his tablet back, the video was missing until he resynced it. His attorney telling 7 News that police searched that tablet without consent, without a warrant, without probable cause, and without any legal justification whatsoever. That's why they have filed a suit in federal court. The police department tells me they have completed their internal investigation and that those findings have all been turned over to the Office of the Independent Monitor. They are asking the public to refrain from making any judgments until the facts are publicly available.
Really quickly, I want to end off on some amazing video that we have of the Cotopaxi volcano just south of Quito in Ecuador, the last major eruption at 1877. Take a look at some of this footage. Natalie, unbelievable stuff. There were 4 blasts that took place on Friday. Ash was sent 5 kilometers into the air, and it coated some of the cars and homes around the area with a fine gray powder. It's a very dangerous volcano. It has been known to create lahars, which is destructive mud flows on the sides of volcanoes. So something we're going to monitor very quickly. Not a full eruption, but it's becoming more active.
You couldn't even see the volcano in that shot.
That's correct. Yeah, that's right.
Ash.
Completely covered.
Maria LaRosa, I want to update you on a very active Western Pacific. We have 2 typhoons that we're keeping a close eye on for various reasons, but one being that it's already been such an active season there. In some cases, these areas are dealing with, once again, very powerful storms. Let's first talk about Typhoon Coney, and you can see very well organized, a Cat 1, 75-mile-per-hour winds, but it's impacting Guam. Now, keep in mind, it wasn't that long ago that Typhoon Sadalor was battering those islands. Well, the track of this typhoon, once again, we find ourselves down the road here looking at a powerful typhoon that could be impacting Taiwan. We're talking about winds that could be as high as 145 miles per hour here come midweek. So obviously, we're going to be watching this one very closely. Now you have Typhoon Atsani. You have max winds at 75 miles per hour. This just to the east of Typhoon Coney. This track taking it now to the north and west, but once again, it's a powerful typhoon forecasted here by Wednesday, looking at maximum winds of 145 miles per hour. The question will be down the line, we're talking now maybe a week, is whether or not a trough will pick this up and whether or not we'll have to keep Japan on alert here for impacts from this system. All things to watch in the tropics, once again, in the Pacific.
Desperate for the most basic necessities, aid workers could do nothing but stand by as the chaos erupted.
On this planet, we all give 25 to 35% of our taxes towards these centralized governments, and where are they? If they're not here to do this, to take care of these humanitarian crises, then why do we have them? Why we need to ask ourselves, like, where the money's going.
The scramble for food saw several injuries, raising tensions here even higher.
This system is not good. May I already stay here 7 days. My friend is 20 days stay here. No food, no water.
What are you doing? Migrants here in Kos are eking out a living with what they can gather, but few know where the next meal will come from.
We are asking the authorities to help us, to provide to provide the space for us to be actually doing the work that we are supposed to do. We are alone. We are alone, and this place is impossible to work in.
The camp has the most basic of facilities, but hundreds of migrants still arrive daily. Greece and Italy have been worst affected by the Mediterranean migrant crisis. Most of the migrants come from Africa and the Middle East. Catherine Ogunde, CCTV.
We begin with at least 80 major wildfires tearing across the West, burning tinderbox mountainside communities in 8 states. Firefighters are scrambling to save the resort town of Shellen in central Washington state and another area closer to the Idaho state line. Dozens of homes have been burned to the ground and thousands of people have been forced to evacuate. Firefighters are also struggling to gain control of several fast-moving fires in Southern California. 6 campgrounds were evacuated as flames swept through the Angeles National Forest.
The country's emergency services said on Sunday that older people were most affected, with exhaustion and lack of fluids contributing to deaths among the elderly. A heat wave has plagued countries across the Middle East since late July. Temperatures this week in Egypt soared to 46 degrees Celsius in the country's south, and the hot weather is expected to continue over the coming days.